Hello, my friends. I'm here to talk about an important subject, which is what defines a staff engineer or any senior plus engineer, senior plus profession. And that's so important that's why I'm using my hat. I don't know the English name for this, but anyhow, the most important skill that defines a staff engineer is not technical, if you might guess. It's political. And before you close the video, I'm not talking about sucking up people. I'm not talking about this all messy political things you see in the television. I'm talking about a real skill that nobody's teach you but separates you from senior developers, right? So imagine when the game changes after you become senior. When you are a junior or mid developer, always there will be someone that will tell you what to do. Even if you are a senior, right? There will be at least the backlog will be there, the tickets in Jira will be there and will be written. You have, even though you have a lot of decision, you do a lot of decision, you have a kind of a safety net, a tech lead, a manager, a boss, a staff engineer, that a lot of people that will tell you how to progress, what to do to move to the next step and be a more specialized person. But when you pass this threshold of after being a senior and then you become a staff, a principal, a distinguished engineer, a fellowship engineer, that safety net is gone, right? Nobody cares about you anymore. So all of a sudden, nobody will give you a personal roadmap. You have to figure out on your own how to generate impact on your organization, right? And I discovered that, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I discovered the hard way. I tried to create my own company. I was a developer and then I saved a small amount of money, then I left my company and then I went to create a startup and follow the startup dream. And suddenly the cards in the Jira and the backlog didn't appear automatically. And I was, how is that, man? How? I don't know. I always work with a backlog that was there for me as a developer to start working on the backlog. But when you own your own company, who creates the backlog? Who creates the roadmap for the product? You will be that guy. So I had to study the market, study how to talk with customer, understand psychology, emotion. I had to understand, for example, that customers don't know what they want. And if you ask them what they want, they will tell a thing that they think they want, but it's actually not what they want. So it's very complex thing, right? And then you have to use project management techniques to prioritize all of these different things that you had to do, and then create a backlog, and then create a roadmap, and then you can start developing, right? And then it clicked for me. Especially when you are staff engineer, you need to know a lot of things that it's beyond technical. You need to read between the lines. You need to coordinate different stakeholders with a lot of priorities. You have your project manager, you have the customers, you have the boss, you have our team of developers, and almost every time all of them will want different things. Some of the times will be technical things, some of the times will not be technical things. And you need to know how to navigate on this context. And that's why I'm saying that the single most skill that a staff plus need is politics. You know, usually we associate politics with bad thing, right? Manipulation, sucking up, games behind the scenes. But politics, in the real sense, like politics as Aristotle defined a long time ago, it's understanding how decisions are made in a group of people. And if you ignore that single reality, you become the brilliant engineer that knows everything about technology but never are able to do anything, because you cannot move things forward in a group of people, in a group of stakeholders. So I will pinpoint basically 2 or 3 sub skills that you can train to become that person that influence and move very useful things forward in the organization, right? So point number 1, it's how to influence without authority. So staff engineers, we are not managers, right? We don't have a formal authority over anyone, but you still need to guide people, lead people, influence people to move things forward. So there are some tactics. For example, one tactic that I really like is aligning up before pushing down. To lead people, to lead a group of people, the first thing you need to learn is how to follow, how to be led. So if you are not aligned with your boss, with the project manager, with the director of your department, with the CEO, with the mission of the company, if you're not aligned with your managers, it will be very hard to do anything. It will be very hard to do anything. So the first thing, I really like the image of, in the Lord of the Rings, we have Bilbo and we have Frodo. Who is the leader of the fellowship? It's Frodo, right? But we have Sam. If you know Lord of the Rings, you know that. We have Sam. Sam is that guy who follows whatever Frodo says, right? And like, Sam is a very important character. I really love Sam. I wish that we learn how to be Sam, how to follow the leader, even though sometimes we don't agree with the leader. Like, Sam wanted to kill Gollum a lot of times. If it was by Sam's take, he would be killed Gollum like a lot of times. But because Frodo didn't want, and because Frodo was the leader, Sam accepted and obeyed. So this is very beautiful. To generate impact of anything good, you need to trust your leader. Sometimes this is hard, but okay, that's a topic for a different discussion. So the second tactic is you need to second thing is you need to understand in which room you're entering, because depending on the type of the discussion you have in a meeting, for example, or the type of people you have there, if you have directors, if you have customers, if you have developers, different rooms, different contexts require different ways of thinking. And first thing is to understand the room and then understand how to be useful before asking. You never enter a room of a new people asking for new things. You bring things, you are helpful before asking. And the third tactic of influencing without authority is you have to ask questions instead of giving commands. So for example, if you imagine you have a decision to make about the future of the project and you have some ideas. So one way it's go in the meeting with your team and just saying what is the correct way to go, and if they like or not, they will be able to follow it. That's not very useful. But if instead you enter the room and start asking for the team what they want that direction should be, and let them discuss, and if for example they are going to a direction that you think is not good enough, then you ask, okay, but did you thought about this issue that the solution could have? And then only by asking questions, you kind of guiding them to the better decision, that very often the final decision with all of the team, with all of the context, will be much better than the decision you had before. All right, so a couple of tactics to influence without authority. I can give a bonus tip on that, which is doing sponsorship. This is very strong and very, very nice. And this is actually something I'm not very good at it. I should get better at it. But actually, instead of giving advice on how to get better in the career, you basically discover a small project. For example, imagine you have a team of developers, junior, mid, senior developers. Instead of giving advice for them on what to study and how to get better, etc., you just find some projects that this person can be the owner of the project, and then you go to this person and say, what do you think of taking this project on yourself? I think you'll be able to do it. I think you'll be very good at it, and you learn a lot from it. I am here to support you if you want. And then this person will be able to have ownership and do something is very good at it and improve a lot. So sponsorship is a very powerful thing to influence and make things change in the organization, right? And okay, so this was some tips on how to influence without authority. And as a last tip, as a last thing that you should know about how to be political, and be in mind, everything that I'm saying here is about the skill and the virtue of politics, the good politics, how to navigate in context that has a lot of different people moving to the same direction, right? The last thing you need to know is to understand the unwritten rules. Every place has unwritten rules, a set of guidelines and expectation on how people should act, but it's not very explicit. People don't know exactly why they're doing this kind of thing. So for example, there is this guy called Larson. He wrote this book called Staff Engineer, very great book. He gave some good examples. So for example, in Stripe, everything that they do is, I don't know if that's true, but at the time that he was working there, everything that they do was a Ruby monolith. So if someone suggests a microservice, in a lot of nuanced way, this suggestion will be kind of not prioritized or rejected, because everyone liked to do everything in a Ruby monolith. It's not that it was a guideline documented that everyone should follow. It's permeated in the culture, so it was an unwritten rule. Another example, Uber was doing nothing in the cloud, everything on premise. That was a rule for Uber. So that is this kind of thing that you need to understand. Every time you go into an organization, a project, it connects to the previous point, right? You need to listen. You need to understand what are they doing. And if they're doing something that you don't agree, try to understand between the lines. What are the unwritten culture, unwritten rules that they are following to do this kind of behavior? Because maybe there are some explanation to that. Maybe there will be not an explanation to that, but you need to understand. You need to have like this love of understanding the people and giving them the benefit of the doubt. All right. So that's what I think about politics and how to be a great staff engineer, how to contribute with your organization. Quick summary, right? Influence without authority, understand the room you are, do sponsorship, read the unwritten rules, right? And if you start thinking that way beyond technical, if you broaden your scope, I think you'll be very valuable in your company. Let me know in the comments if you agree or if you disagree, if there are any other tips you give for staff engineers. Thank you guys. See you in the next video. Bye bye.